Subscribe to IMR Scary Tales and watch spine-chilling horror stories almost every day. And don't forget to click on the bell icon.
My friend Carlos and I would always go out shoveling people's sidewalks after big snowstorms to make some quick cash. In like 2013 or 2014, our town was in the midst of a blizzard. There were dark clouds, it was windy, and the snow was building up fast. Our school already announced that it would be closed due to snow the next day. So with nothing to do that night, and it being only like 8 p.m, we went out with our shovels and started ringing doorbells, offering to shovel sidewalks for cash. We got a lot of no's before we got our first yes. We made around $15 each on our first house. We made our way across the neighborhood. A lot of people weren't interested, and most people just wouldn't open their doors. We got a second house eventually, and made a little more money on that one. Then I remember a long gap between that house and the next house that would say yes. It was a small corner house, but usually corner houses would pay more. We rang the bell and the door cracked open, but whoever was on the other side didn't show their face. They did, however, speak from the other side. A deep man's voice said, "Who's there?" I pitched a snow shoveling service to the man on the other side, requesting $40 in return, since it was a corner house. There was a short silence, then the voice on the other side said, "Oh, yes, please, $40 is fine." There was a hint of nervousness in the voice. I said, "All right," and then the door shut. I didn't see the man's face at all. I turned to Carlos and said, "That was weird," but we started the shoveling. I started from the front porch, down the walkway to the driveway. Carlos worked on the sidewalks. I couldn't help but stare at the house every once in a while, and at one point, when I turned to a window as I was throwing the snow from my shovel onto the ground, I saw who I assumed was the homeowner. He was standing at one end of the window watching me. Could I see anything but his face? Not really. He was standing in a dark room. A little uncomfortable it made me, but I tried my best to ignore it and continued shoveling. Of course, I'd occasionally glance back and he would still be there. Eventually, I finished the driveway, just around the same time Carlos finished the sidewalks. So we started our way back up the walkway to the front stoop. But before getting to the stoop, the door opened and the man inside shouted, "Go around the back." Carlos and I froze, looked at each other, then obeyed his command. We stepped through the snow-covered grass to the backyard gate. I opened it and pushed it through the rising snow, which was slightly difficult. Then, there we were in the man's backyard. We waited by the back door, expecting him to come outside, eventually, with our money. We made it for over a minute and started getting angsty. I started pounding on the back door since there didn't seem to be a doorbell, and there was the sound of a window being rotated open, followed by the man's voice saying, "Come inside." Carlos and I looked at each other again, and then I led the way in through the back door. All the lights in the house were turned off. It was actually hard to see anything, really. "Hello," I said. I heard a man's voice from another room calling, "I'm counting your money on the table." It seemed like he was inside the kitchen, which was connected by a small door through the room we had entered. We walked closer to the kitchen. I stood at the doorway, intending to look through the crack of the door to see where the guy was standing in the kitchen. But I couldn't see the crack because it was blocked by him. The man was standing on the other side of the door, looking through the crack. I turned and pretended I didn't see him. I made up some excuse like telling Carlos, "Oh, we forgot something outside." We left the house and the man didn't say a word. As soon as we got outside, we grabbed our shovels and sprinted away from there. All of our hard work shoveling that house was for nothing. We got back to my backyard and put the shovels away and went inside to warm up and rest for a little bit. Carlos and I chilled for a little bit, and then it was time for him to go. He went out the back to get his shovel. When he came back inside, he was concerned, telling me to come take a look at something. There was an extra fresh set of boot marks in the snow. You may ask how we knew, and that's because one set trailed from the gate to the back door to the shed in the corner of our backyard. Carlos hurried back inside and we told my mum. We live in a very poor, relatively unsafe neighborhood, so my mum was quick to believe us and to get the 911 on the phone. The police showed up relatively quickly, considering the horrible driving conditions, and they went to investigate the shed. Carlos, my mum, and I watched through the back window as the police pulled out a man from the shed. He had a matching shirt from what I could see through the window back when we were shoveling that property. It was undoubtedly the house owner. He later admitted to the police that he was going to attempt a break-in into our house once we had all gone to sleep. Why? However, he never answered. The police also said he was very intoxicated when he admitted that, which made me think, what on earth would he have done to us in that kitchen if we hadn't left his house.